Slingshot fans. This is Charles again. I'm here with Zulu, and today I want to show you how to make a walking target for slingshots. It's like some kind of bizarre molecule model. Here's the deal, got a tennis ball, and so on. And if you were shooting at this from this side and you hit it, you knock it over, the next tennis ball pops up. You shoot it, knock it over, the next tennis ball pops up. So no matter how you hit it, if you do it right, it's going to just keep walking. And it always pops up a new target. So just so that you get an idea of how this is going to work, I'll take you down to the beach and shoot a couple of shots, and you'll be able to see. Now, if you just happen to hit it and graze it, all that's going to happen is it's going to bobble a little bit. It won't have enough force to knock it over. If you want to knock it over, you got to hit it pretty square, and you can't use wimpy little ammo like maybe 3/8" steel. I don't know, I didn't try it with 3/8" steel. I think that's too light. Down on the beach, I'll be shooting it with stones, and the first shot will just sort of graze it, and you'll see all it'll do is flinch a little bit. And then I'll take a couple and I'll actually hit it and knock it over. Okay, let's go down to the beach, take a couple of shots, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to make this thing. Okay, my friends, we're back from the beach now, and I'm going to show you what's required in order to build one of these little gizmos. Of course, you're going to need 4 tennis balls. These will be your targets. My reason for using tennis balls is that they'll take a lot of abuse from slingshot ammo, and it won't damage them. Ammo will just bounce off. Thought about using hockey pucks, but hockey pucks will have a tendency to spin on here and may not really give you the force you need to flip the thing. Tennis balls work just fine. Now, I'm cheap, so I didn't go buy new tennis balls. A lot of people around here have dogs, and they have those sort of gizmos that you use to sling tennis balls with. Zulu will taste a tennis ball if you toss it once, maybe twice. After that, he says, you threw it, you go get it. So we're not big on tossing tennis balls. But, a lot of these dogs might have the same attitude, because I find tennis balls lying around all the time. And so Zulu often picks them up and brings them home. So these are tennis balls that Zulu has found. And I've used them to make the target. So you need 4 tennis balls. The other thing you need is a length of 1/4 inch threaded rod. We call this ready rod here. You can buy it in any hardware store or building supply store. It comes in 3-foot lengths. I just bought a 3-foot length. And your walking target will have 4 arms on it, and I cut each of the arms to 6 inches, so that gives me plenty of rod if I buy a 3-foot length. Cutting 4 at 6 inches only requires 2 feet of it, so that's a little bit left over, just in case you're like me and you make a mistake sometimes. Okay, the other sort of material that you're going to need are nylon lock nuts, and I put this together with the nylon lock nuts so that when you shoot it, it doesn't tend to come apart while you're shooting it. You're going to need 8 of these nylon lock nuts, 1/4 inch by 20 thread per inch, and you're going to need 8 washers, okay, for 1/4 inch washers. Now the real heart of the thing is this ball right here in the middle. If you had a misspent youth like me, you'll recognize that as a billiard ball or a pool ball. Pretty hard plastic, and that's what holds the whole thing together. So the drill is that we drill 4 holes in appropriate places, and we put the ready rod in there, and then we put the tennis balls over the ends of the ready rod. And the only tricky part about all of this is, how do you know where to drill those holes? Well, for those of you with a tremendous amount of mathematical curiosity, it's the problem of embedding a regular tetrahedron in a sphere. For those of you without the mathematical background, don't sweat that. You don't need to know any of that crap. Just trust me, I worked it all out for you. Now, these billiard balls, depending on where you get them, and I find them in second-hand stores all the time, and so, you know, I just bought a bag of them and brought them home. And they're a good, hard, sturdy plastic. What you need to know is the circumference, the distance all the way around it. You can determine that in a couple of ways. One, if you have a flexible tape measure of the sort that people who do a lot of sewing would use, you can just wrap it right around the ball and take your reading. If you don't happen to have one of those, what you can do, just take a piece of string, pin it down at some point which you will recognize on the ball, just any old point will do. Wrap the string around the outside, and then you just grip the string right there at the middle, and then that tells you how long it is. And then you just take a ruler. If you're sort of US oriented, you're going to measure it out in inches, and I get that it's 6 7/8 inches. Alright, let's just write that down. 6 7/8 inches. On the other hand, if you are in fact into the metric system, this will show you the benefit of the metric system. What we do is we do the same old thing. We just wrap the string around the ball to get our length on the string, and then you just lay it out on your ruler, which measures in metric, and I get 17.5 centimeters. 17.5 centimeters. Doesn't really matter what sort of measurement system you use, as long as you can measure the circumference, the distance around this sphere. Now, how do we go about telling where to drill the holes? Well, we're going to start somewhere, and so I'm just going to use this pencil, and this is a 9 ball, and so I'm just going to make a little X right there in that upper circle of the 9 ball, because that's where I'm going to start. That would be my first hole. Now we need to have 4 holes that are equally spaced around here and are exactly the same distance from each other all the way around. And here's how we determine that. The magic number is 0.26. Alright? So you need to use that number as a multiplying factor. Alright? So if you've got 6 7/8 inches, here's my little calculator. 7 divided by 8 equals 0.875. So 6 7/8 inches is 6.875 inches. Now we're going to multiply 6.875 0.75 by that magic factor of 0.26. And what we get is 6.875 times 0.26, and that equals 1.7875. 1.7875 inches. Well, how much is 0.7875 of an inch? Well, I happen to have this handy little machinist's ruler, which tells me about how much that is. On the other hand, you know that it's close to 3/4, so 3/4 would be 0.75. So let's try something like, that would be 6/8, so let's try something like 7/8 of an inch is 875, so that's too much. So it's pretty close to 3/4. So let's just call that 1 3/4 to be close enough. So let's call it 1 3/4. If you had a little table look up, you could just look up and see which fraction of an inch corresponds to 0.7875. We don't have to be deadly accurate, but accurate enough. Now for the metric system, it's the same kind of thing, but you don't have to do all that conversion from fractions to decimals. We've got 17.5 centimeters times 0.26, and what I get here is 17.5 times 0.26, and I get about 4.6 centimeters, 4.55 actually, 4.55 centimeters. We'll call it 4.6. Either way you do it is fine. You can either use inches or you can use the metric system. Now, what that tells me is how far away, if I were to go in a direct line through here, how far away that other hole is. That's not the distance across this arc, but straight through. What I have to do then is I can take a compass, old school compass with a pencil, points, and I put it on here and I say, okay, I need to be 1 3/4 of an inch. So I set this so that the gap here is exactly 1 3/4 of an inch. So here we are. Here's 1 3/4 of an inch. Right? If you don't happen to have one of these, you can dummy one up by just taking some wire, taping a pencil to it, and try for the metric system. It's 4.6 centimeters. Well, let's just try it here. And there it is, at 4.6 centimeters. All right? And of course, those are exactly the same distance. It doesn't really matter. It's just a question of which is easier to calculate with. All right. So that gives me the distance, and that should be the distance between the center of the holes. Now I'm going to mark. Okay. I'm going to try a little close-up so you can see how I go about marking this ball. So I put an X right there, the eye of the 9 on this 9 ball. I've got my compass. This is the wire one, and here's the regular one. I've got them set at the required gap. Now all I have to do is to start marking the ball. One simple thing to do is you put your point right on the beginning part, and you make a little line. And you just keep going around making that line the required distance away. Not marking all that well. You may not be able to see it. just want to make a bit of a sort of a circle there. Alright, so now you've got pretty much a circle around here. Not quite a circle, but close enough. And the point is, you know that any point on this circle that you've just scribed on here is going to be the required distance away from your starting point. So you can see it's a pretty rough circle, just kind of going around here. And this circle is the required distance away from your starting point, because it's just this gap. Now, so we'll just pick a point here, and that will be our second point. There's our first point, there's the second point, and it's the required distance away. Just like that. Now we'll take this point, and we'll just go back to the line that we just drew, and we'll make another little X. So now, this second point and that third point are the required distance away. And because we started here, we know it's the required distance from this one as well. So now we've got 3 points. So we'll take that third point, for our little gizmo right there, mark it again. Now we've got 3 points around this sort of circle. We've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, and how far apart are they? Well, these are the required distance. Those are the required distance. That's the required distance. And how about here? Well, you can see that I'm just a little bit off here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take sort of the midpoint here between those two. Now from here to this next point, I'm pretty well bang on, a little bit off. So I'll just take that little midpoint right there. Alright, and so that's getting close enough. So midpoint here to there, that's pretty good. That one to there, that one's pretty good. And of course that one to the midpoint there, that's pretty good. Alright, and they're all the required distance away from this point. So now we've got 4 points. We've got the one we started with, which is this guy right here. We've got that sort of midpoint right there. You can see where I've marked it. We've got the midpoint right there. You see where I marked that. And then we've got that first one there. So there's our 4 points. And those are the 4 points that I need to drill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in a padded vise or something similar, or on a drill press, and I'm just going to drill straight down toward the center. No need to go past the center, you just go straight down toward the center until you get, oh, maybe 3/4 of an inch or so. What size drill are you going to use? We're using 1/4 threaded rod, 1/4 inch threaded rod. So there are several ways to attach these arms to the ball. One is to just drill at a 1/4 inch hole and use epoxy and epoxy these arms in place. What I did is I used a standard tap to tap a 1/4 inch hole, and so you just look at your table if you've got a set of taps and dies, find out what size drill you need to use. It's slightly less than 1/4 of an inch. Drill down through there and then use your tap to tap the hole. And in my case, once it was done, I just screwed the rods in until they were good and tight, and then they held. Alright. Once the arms are in place, you run one of your nuts down onto the rod, far enough to be a little bit more than the width of your tennis ball. Then you put a washer on. Then you take your tennis ball, and again, I find it easiest to use an electric drill, and you just drill a hole in here. Just pick a spot that you can spot, and on the other side it's pretty symmetric. And then you drill a hole in here, just 1/4 inch, and they need to be roughly in line with each other so that you're not going to be off to one side too bad. They don't have to be exact. Then you put your tennis ball on, just by forcing it in place. Put your other washer on. Put your nylon locked nut on. Then you just use a wrench. Tighten it down a bit. And obviously if you keep tightening it, you're just going to smash this quite flat. Zulu thinks these balls are his, but they're not. So you do that on all 4 arms, and that's all there is to it. And then you got your walking slingshot target. Shoot that. Hi guys. Sorry about the abrupt ending of that previous scene, but Zulu decided he would turn over the tripod and kind of banged the camera up, but I think we're up and running again. I got through pretty well everything. That's how you build the thing. The only thing I haven't really talked about, I think, is if you don't have billiard balls, you can use just about anything. This is just a big wooden ball that I found. It's about the same size as a billiard ball. Found it in a second-hand store. You could use an old croquet ball or just about anything. Wood works just fine. Well, there's my tea kettle screaming at me, so I guess I better go get myself a cup of tea. You guys have a good day. Make one of these things. They're a lot of fun. Okay. Bye-bye. All right. Sit.